Ignore the hat. If I have not been annoying enough about it, I wrote a new book. Please don't skip this. In Wonder Your People is a collection of 22 short stories, mostly in the realm of magical realism / absurdism. One of them is about a man whose wife turns into a house. Another one is about a man who castrates himself to solve his erectile dysfunction. I have a story in here written from the POV of a song. I know I make these videos more often, but writing fiction is really just my main passion, deadass. This hat is you can't do this. Come on. There we go. That's better. Goddamn nigga, come on. Writing fiction is my main everything really. It would mean everything to me if you checked out the book. And if you do, be sure to leave a review on Amazon and Goodreads. It really helps. Enjoy the essay. All of you hoes need to remember, sticks on stone. Come on. Despite me being one of them, Kendrick Lamar fans and I have had a tumultuous relationship over the years of me doing this YouTube thing. Part of this is their fault. The man specifically told them he was not their savior, pleading with them to remember he's but a man not free from reproach, and they rather comically used it as an excuse to free him from reproach. Now, whenever you criticize Kendrick Lamar, you're bound to receive a delegation of at least 60 souls, typing, "He is not your savior, bro," all convinced somehow that they are under any stretch or bend of the imagination, uttering a thought that is theirs. But also, I haven't been the most fair to Mr. Lamar, maybe. I can concede some of that. I guess I'm just naturally hostile to anyone that gets to a certain level of fame, especially when said level of fame is consistently directly equated to the worth of their thoughts. Hence me side-eyeing Beyonce and laughing giddily at the backlash to that interview-shaped neck massage Frazier Tharp gave Jay-Z. To me, it just feels so incredibly innocuous, the whole enterprise of the mega celebrity. There is no amount of genius or insight a man can have that won't make it deadly for him to truly believe in it. And so whenever I see all the constant genuflecting by his fans, whenever I see them grasp at the hem of his garment like the bleeding woman, I mourn something. Kendrick isn't talking to them anymore. The idea of Kendrick is a monarch eating casually and a lunge for the scraps. But looking inward, being honest with myself, I cannot say that I am any different. There are artists I revere. They mercifully aren't as famous as Mr. Lamar, but functionally it's the same. The usual suspects are Eyes, Earl Sweatshirt, John Green. These days though, there's an artist that keeps seeping his way into my art, my philosophy, my way of being. Like Kendrick Lamar stands, I too lunge for his scraps. That's the problem with making people into gods, you know? They become questions that you answer in the form of worship. You see them as a fixture in the landscape of you, like a mountain you spend hours driving to but can never reach. Well, as my mother likes to say, if Mohammed cannot go to mountain, mountain must come to Mohammed. This, I promise you, is an essay about Kendrick Lamar. But first, and for a significant while, I must talk to you about David Foster Wallace. You guys hear that Arsenal won the Premier League? And we're going to win the Champions too, nigga. On September 12th, 2008, David Foster Wallace hung himself. I feel like I should get that out of the way before anything. I don't want it coming up as a plot twist later. He spent his life warring with clinical depression and presumably lost, cold open over. Now, Wallace was a staggeringly acclaimed author. I don't know how to put it in context because I don't think most of my audience are avid readers, but he was a big fucking deal. He was the American author of the 90s. His 1,000-page novel, Infinite Jest, was essentially the book men put on their shelves to impress the educated baddies. If this helps, think of him as the novelist equivalent of a Lupe Fiasco, or honestly a JID at the height of his popularity in 2022. A hyper self-aware, heady scribe, somehow finding himself with global attention. Wallace was hailed as a genius from pretty much out the gate. His debut novel, The Broom of the System, won the prestigious Whiting Award in 1987. He was just 24, a year older than me. I am cooked. My point being, he was incredibly influential and successful, but he wasn't putting up James Patterson or Stephen King numbers. He still had room to be avant-garde and write shit that would make you scratch your head. It's always acutely tragic when a figure who helped other people combat despair succumbs to it. I imagine there's even a feeling of betrayal involved somehow. Fans of Mac Miller or Kurt Cobain must have been stunned when they found out. A shrill, deafening reminder that nobody, no matter how thoughtful, is invincible from that which takes chunks out of the soul. I suppose I'm rather fortunate. Similar to my relationship with Mac Miller, I didn't become a fan of David Foster Wallace until after he died. I, like many I reckon, discovered him through YouTube uploads of his interviews. He was soft-spoken, but gave words to nightmares that seemed intangible, unspeakable even. He gave eyes to see that the world has always been in the process of dying. Is that a squirrel? To see that humanity is constantly on the brink of something terrible and something miraculous. Here's an example. There's an interview where he talks about television. This is the 90s, by the way. And he's talking about how he had to get rid of his TV unit because he'd spend hours just switching through channels, not staying on any one for longer than a moment, trapped in an ever-long spiral of button pressing, the unkeepable promise that there's always some better content, some tastier entertainment one tap away. If it isn't immediately obvious where I'm going with this middle-aged man in the 90s, years before the Twitters and Zuckerbergs and the TikToks, is describing doom scrolling. He was just like that, you know? David Foster Wallace was ahead of his time, forgive the cliche. He spoke of real fear. Sure, fears mostly regarding middle, hyper-educated Americana. He didn't have much to say on police brutality or gentrification, but he understood that sometimes the most pernicious problems are the quieter ones. He understood, long before most of us did, that we were in a battle with billion-dollar conglomerates for our attention, and God help us, we were losing. And can you blame us? The 21st century is just 2 decades old barely, and TV got so good. The internet got so good. Movies used CGI to turn cars into robots. Netflix lets you share passwords. Spotify has a student plan. Listen to unlimited music uninterrupted for the price of a hamburger. American politics became a trashy reality TV show. Phones got waterproof. We got less and less reasons to tolerate even a single instant of boredom. We feel we have, as he put it, a right to be entertained all the time. I mean, hey, you're watching this on YouTube, correct? I planned originally on making a video about Marvy, but I delayed it for this one because Kendrick is a bigger name and I wanted to sell you my book. Attention became the global currency. Maybe it was inevitable from as far back as the advent of the printing press. We democratized knowledge and in doing so commodified attention, and as Susan Sontag put it, consumers droop. They need to be stimulated, jump-started again and again. But believe it or not, this isn't what made me fall in love with David Foster Wallace's ethos. I read parts of his essay collection, Consider the Lobster, then This is Water, and considered that this white man might really be one of them ones. But when I picked up his short story collection, Oblivion, where the fuck did I put that book, nigga? Yeah, there we go. But when I picked up his short story collection, Oblivion, I began to whisper to myself, this guy might be a genius. Particularly, it was the short story Good Old Neon. I have something to tell you. Sometimes, I worry I don't exist. Surely, every thinking human being is a mechanism behind a performance. And sometimes the line between the mechanism, the interiority, the personhood, and the performance gets blurry. When that happens to me, my primary instinct is to call myself a fraud. It is to see Tosin Balogun as an entity that forgot to finish constructing a personhood in the first place. I'm not going to spoil Good Old Neon for you because I want you to read it. Preferably after you read my book, but I'm not picky. But I will read you this passage to explain why it was so enrapturing to me. The truth is, you already know what it's like. You already know the difference between the size and speed of everything that flashes through you and the tiny, inadequate bit of it all you can ever let anyone know. As though inside you is this enormous room full of what seems like everything in the whole universe at one time or another. And yet, the only parts that get out have to somehow squeeze through one of those tiny keyholes you see under the knob in all the doors. As if we are all trying to see each other through these tiny keyholes. But it does have a knob. The door can open. but not in the way you think. The truth is, you've already heard this, that this is what it's like, that it's what makes room for the universes inside you, all the endless inbent fractals of connection and symphonies of different voices, the infinities you can never show another soul. And you think it makes you a fraud, the tiny fraction anyone else ever sees? Of course you are a fraud. Of course what people see is never you. And of course you know this. And of course you try and manage what part they see if you know it's only a part. Who wouldn't? It's called free will, Sherlock. And so what choice do I have? How is a desponding Tosin supposed to read this and not fall in love with its author? I get it. Surely I do. Kendrick Lamar fans who plug their ears at any criticism of their martyr, who am I to judge in the face of incomprehensible suffering? David Foster Wallace was known for his dense, overwhelming writing style, sometimes having single sentences that go on for pages and pages and pages, but he was somehow able to not lose me as I read. I've read Toni Morrison and Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka, legendary authors who have far more in common with me and my people than David Foster Wallace. But maybe as a result of privilege, none of them have ever made me feel as mercifully unalone as this scruffy Midwestern white man. Honestly, no artist has. I am, in the words of Kendrick Lamar himself, a fan. Now we can get to the fun part. We can talk about Kendrick now. Are you happy? Okay. Fucking virgin. Why am I angry? I haven't eaten today. This last section of the essay. Do I stink? Oh my god. Nah, it can't be me. It can't be me. Come on now. Come on now. This section of the essay is going to talk about God. I will not specify which God because it doesn't matter. I'm not here to debate the existence of God, merely to talk about our ideas of him. Surely, human beings are capable of worshipping anyone or anything. So clearly, for the sake of this piece, anything can be God. That isn't too controversial, I hope. Okay, let us continue. Wallace and Lamar don't exactly run parallel as writers. Kendrick is a little more openly spiritual and idealistic. Frankly, he has more in common with Paulo Coelho or Kenzaburo Oe, but they have a similar appeal, I imagine. They both unfurl the lies that America is so insistent on spewing. When Kendrick Lamar released All Right in 2015, it must have been epiphanic for so many people. For research of this section, all I had to do was scroll through a Wikipedia page for African American police shootings, and I was staggered by just how many names I saw. Human being upon human being upon human being upon Eric Garner upon Tamir Rice upon Lavonia Riggins. All Right must have felt God-sent. On that song, he's rapping about his vices, the devil himself winning, making manifest laughing, cadaverous men. And when he says, "We gon' be alright," enough times, it stops sounding like just a hook and more like a prayer. So naturally, people bowed their heads. It is easy, because of its ubiquity, to understate just how unprecedentedly essential To Pimp a Butterfly is to our modern idea of hip-hop, and to be honest, black storytelling as a whole. Through a popular genre and medium, To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City helped reintroduce novelistic storytelling to a generation that frankly had access to way more effective forms of entertainment. People all over America and the world were looking at this man as one remarkable story, watching as he took a massive swing at the powers and ideas that be. Those same people all over America and the world watched as the powers and ideas that be shrugged at the attack and went back to stuffing their faces. Maybe that was Kendrick's folly, thinking art could on its own append everything. Maybe he expected too much from us, from himself. Maybe this is the fate of every God-fearing man. He prays and is destined to believe God is praying back. This is the last David Foster Wallace passage I will read. Cross my heart. It's from Oblivion, but from a different short story this time. The paradoxical intercourse of audience and celebrity. The suppressed awareness that the whole reason ordinary people found celebrity fascinating was that they were not themselves celebrities. That wasn't quite it. It was more the deeper, more tragic and universal conflict of which the celebrity paradox was a part, the conflict between the subjective centrality of our own lives versus our awareness of its objective insignificance. This was the single great informing conflict of the American psyche, the management of insignificance. It was the great syncretic bond of US monoculture. It was everywhere, at the root of everything, of impatience in long lines, of cheating on taxes, of movements in fashion and music and art, of marketing. In particular, he thought it was alive in the paradoxes of audience. It was the feeling that the celebrities were your intimate friends, coupled with the inchoate awareness that untold millions of people felt the same way, and that the celebrities themselves did not. Celebrities were not actually functioning as real people at all, but as something more like symbols of themselves. I really don't think I'm crazy in equating celebrity worship to religious worship. I think people seek divinity in anything. I think we are more than ever acutely aware of how arbitrary and vile and unmiraculous we as a species are, yet we are more than ever less inclined to believe in boats housing every animal species and water turning into wine. Instead, we believe in that which we think we can see and touch, quote-unquote real men, men in diamond-encrusted crowns of thorns and butterfly wings. Yet, of course, these men aren't real either. We concocted our ideas of Kendrick, his critics and his acolytes alike. None of us know him. None of us know what it must have felt like to release the greatest album of the decade and see the dying world die on like it didn't even hear you. Yet, ironically, he would, in response to this, go on to release Damn and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and his cultural status would elevate from heart-sleeved martyr to mouthpiece of God. Atheists and Christians alike held on to every word he said, even as he begged them not to. They excused his hypocrisy. They let him turn abused minors into a spectacle because he was not their savior. But of course he was their savior. Of course this man who understands the world so much more than us would never go through life without a master grand plan. Because what are gods if not mercy from unanswerable questions? Like yours truly, Kendrick is also a fan. For me, it's David Foster Wallace. For him, it was hip-hop figurehead, God in his own right, Tupac. At the end of To Pimp a Butterfly, he talks to his idol in this sort of pseudo-interview. This is where we hear the famous "I remember you was conflicted" poem. For me, the more interesting poem is the one he recites in the verse just before that pseudo-interview. Do you believe in me? How much you believe in her? You think she gon' stick around if them 25 years occur? You think he can hold you down when you're down behind bars, hurt? You think you're all on common ground if you promise to be the first? Can you be immortalized without your life being expired? Even though y'all share the same blood, is it worth the time? Like, who got your best interest? Like, how much are you dependent? How clutch are the people that say they love you and who pretending? How tough is your skin when they turn you in? Do you show forgiveness? What brush do you bend when dusting your shoulders from being offended? What kind of den did they put you in when the lions start hissing? What kind of bridge did they burn? Revenge on your mind when it's mentioned. You want to love like Nelson. You want to be like Nelson. You want to walk in his shoes, but your peacemaking seldom. You want to be remembered that delivered the message, that considered the blessing of everyone. This is your lesson for everyone. Say, when shit hit the fan, is you still a fan? I have no right to criticize Kendrick Lamar fans for their blind faith. Clearly, I put my faith in my ideas of men as well. Because lo and behold, David Foster Wallace wasn't perfect either. He, like Tupac, allegedly had an abusive relationship with women. There is talk that he shoved writer Mary Carr out of a moving car one time. If it isn't obvious, I'm struggling to figure out how to end this, or even what it is exactly I'm trying to ask of my audience. I guess, if I may, I'd ask that we pay attention to whom we pay attention to and why. David Foster Wallace and Tupac no longer exist. They left behind love and ideas and art, but their persons have ceased to be. Kendrick, the actual person, is off somewhere with who knows who, but the man we see in our mind's eye also doesn't exist. When we talk about people, let us remember that we have no true access to any other human being. None of us can be gods. We are all frauds, staring at each other through keyholes, asking again and again for mercy. We get so wrapped up in this notion of Kendrick Lamar being wise and intelligent and brilliant and insightful that we forget what made To Pimp a Butterfly so significant was that he spent most of it not having the answers. He was a suffering man, staring at his reflection in a whiskey bottle. During his pseudo interview with Tupac at the end of the record, Tupac eventually stops responding, and surely we know deep down what this means. Surely we can only step back from the keyhole and open the door in the immediate silence in the moment after the album has finished playing. Surely Kendrick was never talking to Tupac or God or any other cry for help we enrobed in a name. Kendrick was always talking to Kendrick. By proxy, and by proxy alone, to us.
I'm not speaking to the community. I'm not speaking of the community. I am the community. My homeboys, those are my real homeboys on my album cover. They still over there. You know?
Here's the thing about me. I write a lot about how we repeatedly fail to imagine each other and ourselves. It's one of the many debts I owe to Mr. John Green. The truth is, despite me putting my whole tosisi into these videos, they are not my primary craft. My first love is, and always will be, fiction. If you would like to read In Wonder Your People for free, you can-ish. If you have Spotify Premium, the audiobook recorded by me, smoke alarm beeps and all, is available for free with Spotify Premium. Additionally, it's available in hardcover, paperback, ebook, which is like $5, I believe, and audiobooks elsewhere. Also, one of the short stories is available for free on this YouTube channel in video form. It's called Felix. You can go watch that if you're interested. I'm really making a bid for this whole artist thing before I finish grad school and actually enter the workforce proper. So if you'd like to support me, buying In Wonder Your People or checking out my Patreon would be a tremendous help. Forgive the cliche. Lastly, if you do read the book, leaving a review on Amazon and Goodreads, good or bad, would be absolutely amazing. It really does help with the book's performance and also helps me improve at this craft I'm so terribly, mournfully in love with. Thank you again for watching. I promise the next video will be that Mavi one, most likely. Goodbye. Nigga, you still here? Leave. Oh shit. Oh shit. I owe you an apology.